We'll start with quarterbacks as we always do. You need to replace Jayden Daniels. Where can you turn to? It's a likelihood he's going to miss week 8 at minimum with a rib injury. Doesn't seem like it's something that will shoulder him too long, shelve him rather. But ultimately, we do have to have a backup plan for week 8. In first place I'm going to look is Tua Tagovailoa. He is only 46% rostered, dropped in a lot of leagues, especially those without IR spots. And his practice window just opened, and they are expecting him to return to a beautiful matchup against the Arizona Cardinals, giving up the 5th most points to quarterbacks. We're talking about a guy in Tua who's been the quarterback 14 and quarterback 9 across his past 2 years. He has over 5 games with over 30 fantasy points across his span with Mike McDaniels. He's been a top 12 quarterback 40% of the time in that span, and he's been a top 24 quarterback nearly 90% of the time. So this is a guy with a solid floor and some boom upside, some boom potential there to Tua. You don't need me to spell it out for you, but when you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle doing all the work for you, and I know Tua gets his hate, he's just a system QB, he's just dinking and dunking and letting everyone do the work. But we've seen how this has looked with Tyler Huntley, with whoever, Tim Boyle, the creatures under center. I think it's time to put a little respect on Tua's name and how much more valuable this offense is with him there. He's a great engineer of the scheme, and I think this team will welcome him back with open arms here in week 8, and your fantasy team could greatly benefit from a great spot start and a really easy schedule these next few weeks. Sure, Buffalo next week, not great, but other than that, you got, again, Arizona, a top 5 matchup, then the Rams, the Raiders, and the Pats. None of those defense are overly scary. So I do like Tua as the number 1 quarterback ad should he be out there. But going back to the well with Drake Maye, my number 2 quarterback ad, and maybe even better than Tua as a long-term ceiling play here, only 16% rostered is Drake Maye. He went for 276 yards and 2 touchdowns in just his second NFL game. 26 of 37 as well. Solid completion rate. Didn't run nearly as much, had 18 rushing yards on the ground on just 4 scrambles, but this now makes back-to-back games. His first 2 games as an NFL quarterback, Drake Maye has topped 20 fantasy points, showing off a cannon arm, showing off the mobility. Now, the rub with him, and the reason why I probably would go Tua over him, is the schedule is just so rough for Drake Maye. Gets the Jets this upcoming week, although with all those injuries, we just saw Russell Wilson. We're going to talk about him in just a second. Ultimately, he just put up over 24 fantasy points against the Jets, so maybe they aren't such a terrifying matchup after all. But Tennessee, Chicago, Rams, decent matchup, but then going to Miami, who's actually been really, really good against the pass. And then you got one great matchup there against Detroit or Indianapolis rather, before the bye. So not a great schedule here across the next few games. Not the best of spots if you're looking for just a 1-week rental to fill in for Jayden Daniels against the Jets. But again, with those injuries, they were very susceptible to Russell Wilson. Could see Drake Maye putting some numbers up yet again, given his likelihood to push it down the field. He loves to chuck it. His ADOT is right towards the top of the league so far since he became the starter. Love to see that from Drake Maye. But we just mentioned Russell Wilson, 8% rostered, surprisingly smashed in his debut. Now, I know the beginning, the first half, it's like, what are we doing? Why is Russell out here? He's sailing things. Looks like he does not belong on an NFL field. But in that second half, he really did cook. Ultimately threw for 264 yards and 2 touchdowns and realized, unlike Justin Fields, I put the air under the ball, I throw it up there, and my man George Pickens is going to go get it. Really love to see that production there from Russell Wilson. And just the again, willingness to just chuck it up and let his receiver, who wins every single jump ball, go out and do his thing. And unlike, again, Drake Maye, we've got a great schedule coming up for Russell Wilson. In fact, the Steelers have the number 1 schedule from here on out for quarterbacks, starting off with the Giants, a top 8 matchup next Monday night for you guys out there. So check out our guy, Russell Wilson, We've been hating Russell Wilson all year, but again, he looked better than anything we have seen across his time in Denver. Seemed ready to roll. It seems like he's definitely going to spark this passing attack overall. So if you need a quarterback, I would rank him Tua, Drake Maye, then Russ, but really just a 1-week rental. You could certainly make the case for Russ over Drake Maye, given the schedule, given the way he just performed in that first week back. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.